answering your questions and breaking down the Dylan Bundy signing on today's episode of Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to the Locked On Minnesota Twins podcast. Today is Wednesday, December 1st. It's lockout day. So exciting. I'm Nash Walker. Thank you for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. We are free and available on all podcast platforms. Again, I'm Nash Walker, writer at Twins Daily, lifelong Twins fan, bringing you 5 days a week coverage on the Minnesota Twins. I asked for your questions today on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at NashWalker9. Always feel free to send me questions, comments, whatever is on your mind. Also at Locked On Twins, you can DM. DMs are always open. Let me know what you think. Appreciate you listening today. I want to jump into your questions, but first, Twins have signed Dylan Bundy. This is super funny. I mean, you get to a point like when I'm breaking down these off seasons, you get to a point where you get to know the front office so well. Now I don't know them, but you get to know the moves that they make so well that you can almost predict them in advance. And I'm not right on every single one. I thought Alex Cobb was definitely someone who they were going to sign. Like I thought Alex Cobb made a ton of sense, especially at 2 for $20 million. We got a question here from Josh about market values, and I thought Alex Cobb for 2 and $20 million was a good deal for the Twins. But Dylan Bundy, we talked about last week, like specifically, I don't know how many free agents we talked about last week. Not that many, because we were talking more bigger picture and talking about the Twins' direction and Byron Buxton and all those things. But Dylan Bundy's a guy we talked about because I said the direction of this offseason is going to be targeting high upside pitchers in free agency for less money, and then going after controllable starting pitching in the trade market. And the Twins signed Dylan Bundy, and he was the first guy I mentioned as a buy low, higher upside starting pitcher. And on the one hand, this is what I've been asking for, right? I've been saying all offseason, like, go after high upside pitchers. And why is Dylan Bundy a high upside pitcher? Because he has had previous success. In 2020, in the shortened season for the Angels, he was outstanding. I think when you look at Bundy, a former 4th overall pick, really nice slider, high spin slider, stuff ticked down after the substance ban last year, and then he had injuries late. I think he had shoulder fatigue or something late in the year. So it was a disastrous year for him. But when you look at his profile, you can see the upside. Like his sinker gets crushed. And we say this so many times with pitchers that we look at, I should say. I always mix those up. The sinkers that get destroyed, and so many pitchers just hang on to their sinkers way too much. Bundy's one of them. Ditch the sinker, throw more sliders. The Twins, we know, love to work with guys in their sliders. Bundy gave up 20 homers. I think it was in 90-plus innings last year. So just a terrible year, 6.06 ERA for the Angels. But like I said, very good in 2020. He had a stretch in 2020 where he was just dominant, I remember, in that shortened season. And he looked like a breakthrough candidate for the Angels after years in Baltimore where he just never reached that potential. But Dylan Bundy, I think, is a fine pickup for the Twins. And I on this deal, I think especially. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see, and I apologize if there's a glitch on the screen. You can just look through the little pixels there. But this is what the Twins roster looks like today after the Bundy signing, heading into the lockout. Garver, Sano, Polanco, Donaldson in the infield, missing a shortstop. Alex Kirilloff, Byron Buxton, Max Kepler in the outfield, missing a DH. Luis Arraez utility, so he's kind of filled into that DH spot. Backup catcher Ryan Jeffers, a couple spots on the bench. I think Nick Gordon will probably fill one of them. First 2 spots in the rotation are empty. Third spot is filled by Dylan Bundy, Bailey Ober, or Joe Ryan. Same for the 4th and 5th spots, whatever order you want to put them in. And then the bullpen, Taylor Rogers, Tyler Duffy, Caleb Thielbar, Jorge Alcala, Randy Dominic, Jarrell Cotton, and then 2 spots that need to be filled in the bullpen. So that's what we're looking at right now for the 2022 Twins. After the Bundy signing, I like this contract, $4 million only in 2022. So he's guaranteed $4 million this year, and then he has a buyout for 2023 at $1 million, or the Twins can pick up his option for $11 million. So whenever you sign a high upside guy like this, and Oliver, I appreciate you asking about Bundy and how you should feel about him. I think whenever a team signs a high upside starter, high upside pitcher, high upside anybody, having a second-year option is super important because if they reach that breakout, if they do break out, or if they do reach that level where they've been before, like Bundy in 2020, let's say Bundy puts together a really nice year as a third starter for the Twins, or maybe a little bit more, then you want to have the option to bring them back and still get value in the next year. So the Twins have an $11 million option on him, $1 million buyout. Also, the guaranteed money is $5 million, but you can spread that money. So $4 million can go to this year's payroll, and then $1 million can be designated for 2023 if they end up buying him out after this season. But we saw them do it with Martin Perez. You know, you see him do it with Nelson Cruz. You see him do it with Martin Perez or with Dylan Bundy here. Important to do, I think, because you want to recoup them if they have a good year. You want to bring them back, and you want to have that opportunity to not just oversee a great value on their first year, but also maximize that value on a second year. Dylan Bundy's a fine signing. Like Oliver, anyone who's wondering what you should think about Dylan Bundy, he will not be the Twins' best acquisition this offseason. If Dylan Bundy is their best starting pitching acquisition, I'm going to have a field day on the podcast because I'm not going to be happy, and the Twins are not going to be good next year. Like, very hard to see them being good if Dylan Bundy's their only acquisition on the pitching front, or their best acquisition. So there's more coming. There has to be more coming. The payroll is too light for there not to be. You know, they have at least $30 million to spend, in my estimation, on this team. When I say they have $30 million to spend, that doesn't mean like a $30 million contract. That means they have, on an average annual value basis for 2022, like $30 million to spend. So you can put $20 million of that toward Carlos Rodon, which I think would be on the upper end, and still have $10 million for a shortstop, maybe another starter, and you can push that up even more. You know, they could get into the 130, 135 range. I've been always asking for a little bit more. Let's talk about Built Bar. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar ever this holiday season. Grab the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, or even better than a candy bar. Built Bar, filled with so much holiday goodness, rich with decadent flavor, covered in chocolate, but amazingly low in calories, sugar, net carbs, and fat, and high in protein. You get the best of both worlds, delicious and healthy. So many flavors, you'll have a hard time choosing. We have raspberry or mint brownie, cherry or double chocolate, cookies and cream, or peanut butter brownie. Built Bar gives you that extra fuel. People are so passionate about their favorite flavor. Tell Santa to throw a few Built Bars in those stockings. And did you dip your Built Bar into a piping hot cup of cocoa, like some of those marshmallowy treats around the holidays? You need to get your hands on Built Bar Puffs. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. They are really delicious. I always say my dad steals them. They're delicious. Thank you again for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. We are free and available on all podcast platforms. Thank you for sending in your questions today. Let's get to these questions. Hope to get to all of them. Corey, love you, Corey. Thanks for listening. How close do you think the Twins' top 6 or 7 starting pitching prospects are to the majors? Great question, because this is such a big part of this free agent, and so much big part of this free agency and of this offseason. Their starting pitching prospects, as I've said, I think a strength of their system has become upper minor starting pitching, especially after acquiring Joe Ryan and Simeon Woods-Richardson and Drew Strotman. That has become their strength. And I know Strotman didn't really show out for the Twins very well at the end of the year, but I think this is the order. I think they're all pretty tight. Like when I say 1 through 7, I don't think 1 is super far away from 7 in terms of estimated time of arrival. I think Josh Winder's number 1 because he had success last year in the upper minors, is older, had that velocity breakthrough. I think his stuff is ready for the majors if he's healthy. Had a shoulder issue last year, kind of limited his season, but I think Winder is going to be the first starter you see up. Yohan Duran is right behind him. I think they're going to try to find a role for Duran if he's healthy right away out of spring training. Actually, I think he has the best chance of making the team out of spring training because his stuff is so good, because you could start him in the bullpen, multiple inning stints out of the bullpen, and then kind of ease him into a starter's workload after he didn't throw a bunch of innings last year. But Yohan Duran's stuff is ridiculous. Jordan Balazavic, I have 3rd, maybe a little bit of a drop-off from those top 2. ETA-wise, pitched at AA, up and down year. I know I had a good time covering him. He had a great stretch. I think it was 26 2/3 innings where he did not allow a run. But up and down, start to start, inning to inning, not super consistent. Jordan Balazavic, though, still the best starting pitching prospect in the system. Ridiculous curveball, 96 with a fastball. I think he'll be up soon. Hopefully by the end of this year or by the end of 2022. Matt Cantorino, I think, is in the same boat as Yohan Duran. Bullpen-wise, I have him 4th. I think you could see him out of the pen really quickly. So I could actually alternate and put him at 1 or 2 because these guys are interchangeable. Like, it depends how they do at the beginning of the year. I agree with you, Corey. I think very few of these guys will make the team out of spring training, if any. I have Simeon Woods-Richardson tied for 5th with Cole Sands. That's probably a little aggressive on Woods-Richardson. He's 20 years old at AA last year and struggled. But, he's highly sought after. He's a top 50 to top 75 prospect in the bigs. So you could see him take a big step forward and find his way to the majors, even if he is only 21 or 22. Cole Sands has just pitched the lights out. I mean, at every single level out of Florida State. Really like Sands. Stuff kind of lacks compared to the other guys, but you could see him up soon as a back of the rotation option. And then Louis Varland I have at 7th, just because we hadn't seen a whole lot of Louis before this year, but Twins minor league pitcher of the year, probably going to start at AA, dominated both A levels. Louis Varland will be 7th. But good question, Corey. Tyler asks, why are the Twins the way that they are? And then I think he said there are so many things that I just can't stand. Tyler, I love this team. I know you do too. I think we all love this team. We all love this organization. And yes, sometimes they make decisions that you shake your head at. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be here. And I think that's a good question. But but I guess the better question is what makes you keep coming back? And that's what I'll ask myself. And it's the love for this team. Of course, 5 days a week on the Locked On Twins podcast. Ryan asked, Marcus Stroman or Carlos Rodon for the Twins? Well, Ryan, Marcus Stroman, like maybe 30 minutes after Ryan tweeted this, signed with the Cubs. So Carlos Rodon is my answer there. Jacob, best and worst case scenarios at shortstop. And then he asked, how many games does Byron Buxton need to average in order to reach value? The worst case scenario at shortstop for the Twins in 2022 is Jorge Polanco. That would be the worst decision they could make, would be to move Polo back to short. A, because he's not a good shortstop, and B, because he was so good at second, especially offensively, and was making strides defensively. Made some really nice plays over there at second as well. And I think is just more comfortable there, in my opinion, and is much better there. So that's the worst case. Best case is the best remaining shortstop on the market, Carlos Correa, of course. But the most realistic best case would be the Twins missing out on all these starters and throwing money at Trevor Story. That would be the best case. And I really like Story if the Twins can get him on a value-ish deal. What that means is a lot of other teams don't like him because of the Coors factor, because they already have a shortstop, because they already signed. I mean, the Rangers signed Seager and Semien, which is ridiculous. So 2 of the shortstops are off the market to one team, which creates more of a market for Trevor Story, right? Because more teams need a shortstop. But you see the Tigers sign Javier Baez. Now they're out of the market for Correa and Story. So that would be the best case for me. That's only if they're unable to sign Carlos Rodon, if they're unable to make other additions via the trade market where they add salary in the rotation, via Frankie Montas or Chris Bassett or Sean Manaea. But the best case, Jacob, is they sign Story, they sign Rodon, and then they trade for a controllable high upside starter who's not making that much money. Hint, hint, Luis Castillo. Hint, hint, Frankie Montas. That would be the best case scenario for 2022 at the shortstop position. Let's talk about BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered all season. There's more props, odds, and lines than ever before. As football season continues the march to the playoffs, BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. Head to their new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus from basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline is where the game starts. Josiah, thank you so much for your questions. As always, he said, which Twin will take a step forward in 2022? My answer will always be Alex Kirilloff. I think Alex Kirilloff is going to put together a really nice season next year. I think he showed some signs in 2021 before the wrist injury of being an impactful bat, the impactful bat that we'd heard about before the Twins called him up. Love Kirilloff in 2022. I think he's a breakout candidate. I think he's the breakout candidate for the Twins next year. The way that he hit the ball, only thing is just health, as it is for a lot of these guys. Donaldson, Buxton, Kirilloff, Arise, Polanco's ankle. But if they can all come together, and if Kirilloff hits his 90th percentile, which I think is a lot higher than people estimate it to be, and Buxton can, and Polanco can, and Donaldson can, this can easily be a top 3 offense. And I think Kirilloff's the key to that. So he's my pick for taking a step forward in 2022. How many rookies will we see in 2022? I love this question always, and I'll probably change as we hear more and we see more, and we watch these moves come in and we see some trades happen potentially. But for sure, Jose Miranda. I think Josh Winder's a good bet. Yohan Duran's a good bet, like I said. Jordan Balazavic, I think, is a 70-30 good bet to be seen in 2022. Matt Cantorino, I think, is right around there as well. Austin Martin, maybe 60-40 that we'll see him, but I think there's a good chance we see him too because of the on-base ability. I think he could help the Twins very soon. And then look, Royce Lewis would be awesome if he could come back and have that breakout that we've been looking for at the beginning of the minor league season. You could see the Twins pull him up for upside later in the year and see what he could get done depending on injury or ineffectiveness or whoever they sign at short. I think Lewis is an option. So I have 7 names here. That doesn't include like, Chris Valamont or Sands. I also think they could factor in. Giovanni Moran will still be a rookie, I believe. So he's definitely in the mix there. And, there's others too. I mean, Yennier Cano, relief prospect, throws hard. You could see him next year. I think we could see a lot similar to how we did in 2021, but a deeper, better group of rookies, I think, than we saw in 2021. Steven says, why does the front office refuse to give out long-term starting pitching contracts? I don't think they have a problem handing out long-term starting pitching contracts to guys they like. I think their problem or their thing is they're not going to give it out to anybody. So they're not going to throw 5-6 year deals at, Stroman, Gaussman, and Ray and see who bites. And I think sometimes it's smarter to do that. I think it's smarter to, if you like them equally or you think, we like this guy a little bit more, I think they really try to win around the margins and be like, ooh, we don't like X guy better than Y guy. And this is me just kind of speculating, but I think this is their process or part of it. They really will not commit money, that type of money, to a guy they're not 100% certain in liking or a guy that they're certain can help them, right? And I think sometimes it benefits teams to just be like, okay, we know Marcus Stroman's a good pitcher. Let's just give him what he wants. And I think for the Twins, they always have payroll restraints. That's going to be baked in. There's a lot of things at play here. But they did try to get Zach Wheeler. They did try to get Yu Darvish. And people are sick of hearing try, but it's true. Like, that shows to me that they're willing to spend on a free agent starter. It just needs to be the right guy. That leads me into this next question from Will. I believe it's Will. He said, with the new contract for José Berríos, who would say no today? I think this is the question. Who would say no today between Toronto and Minnesota to a José Berríos for Austin Martin and Simeon Woods-Richardson deal? The Twins would say no because they didn't think José Berríos was worth that contract. If they did, he would be signed to that contract, right? Unless he just didn't want to be in Minnesota, but I think he just wanted that money. I think he wanted the deal that he got. So the Twins would say no because they didn't think he was worth that money. Or, maybe they would say yes because he wasn't willing to sign that contract. But if he's traded, he doesn't have a choice. I don't think he has a no trade clause. He might. But the Twins say no. I also think the Twins, in their current situation where you're not 100% certain if you're going to compete in 2022 and 2023, to take on a 7-year contract for a starter when you're not sure you're going to compete in their prime years is ill-advised to me. And I also think, Austin Martin, we've come to love a little bit now that he's in the Twins system. I don't think that they're going to move Martin, and Simeon Woods-Richardson too has upside as well. Maybe a higher floor actually than upside for Woods-Richardson, just the size and the prospect status. Do you feel the market has been reasonable from Josh? We'll finish on this one. Do I feel that the free agent market has been reasonable in terms of contracts that have been handed out? I definitely do. I think there are some contracts where you're like, whoa, like the Semien deal, 7 for $175. I wouldn't do that if I was the Twins. Like that's an obvious, like, ooh, I wouldn't do that. There have been a lot that are like, yeah, I could see the Twins doing that, or I would be in favor of the Twins doing that. Right. The Robbie Ray deal with Seattle, I thought was reasonable. Gaussman to Toronto, I thought was reasonable. Haven't seen the terms on the Stroman deal yet, but those big 3 are all gone. None of them to the Twins. And I think you're going to see the Stroman deal and probably think it's reasonable as well. And I'm probably going to agree with you. A lot of the middle tier, like John Gray, I think got more than I thought he would, probably more than I would be willing to give him if I was the Twins, just because they have other holes and they need that money and they need as many dollars as they can get to not only find quality in the starting rotation, but fill it out with quality. So John Gray, probably not. I think Alex Cobb, 2 for $20 is super reasonable. Like that one to me, I don't know what happened there. Like that could have been a slam dunk. They probably just didn't like Alex Cobb, right? But I do think the market has been reasonable. I think for some guys, teams have had to overpay, like Semien, Scherzer to the Mets for sure. But I think overall, none of these deals outside of a couple had me look and say, wow, like that's ridiculous. I would put Gray into that category too. Like I probably wouldn't sign John Gray to that deal. I was looking more 336 for Gray, not 4. I think he got 4 or 5 for 50, 55 or 57, which I think is probably too rich. But not ridiculous, Josh. So I agree. Like the Twins are making a conceited effort, I guess, not to go after certain guys and not go after them at those price tags for right or wrong. So thank you so much for listening today. Please follow me on Twitter at NashWalker9. Follow the show at Locked On Twins. Thank you for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. And I'll make your second listen Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all podcast platforms. Thank you again for all the questions. Thank you again for listening. Go Twins. Hopefully the lockout does not last long. We'll be back tomorrow.